Welcome to Ohms Lounge. Your host Ohms, and we're with Lone Salesman. We're going to be talking about handheld gaming.
What's going on?
Yeah, not much. Just here. It's been a while since we've done our last podcast, so we decided to give it the idea of talking about handheld gaming because, it wasn't too long ago that you came over and you brought over your Steamdeck, and I was really impressed with it. Been kind of jealous, and I was just like, man, I kind of want to get one of these. So I figured that'd be kind of a good topic to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, again, I think it's just like a running theme with the show where we'll pump out a few episodes and then we'll just kind of go on a hiatus. But as we said before, life has its way of getting in the way. But I thought I'm like, what could we really talk about with handhelds? And then I started looking into it, and honestly, handheld has a very large history. And depending where you came from or where you grew up, when you were born, everyone could have gone through a different phase, just like any console. We were born in the age where tech was just advancing so quickly. You had the Game Boy. I think the Color and the Advanced were kind of the beginning of where I got into it. And then you had like the Nintendo DS, you had, the PSP stuff come out, and then there's the Switch. But I think I stopped kind of at the DSi when I was like younger. I joined the service, and I just, I don't know, I left most stuff behind. Didn't get into the 3DS. And nowadays there's just so many options. Like you said, we have the Steam Deck, we have a bunch of other stuff. But what about you, Ohms? What's your experience with the handhelds?
Growing up, I had my aunt. She had the original Game Boy, the giant brick that took like 8 AA's, and then after after that, I ended up getting a Game Boy for one of my birthdays. I ended up getting uh Pokemon and Link's Awakening, and just spent hours, so many hours, just playing those games. And I think the next handheld that I ended up getting was a Game Boy SP, and I had that for a very long time, going from middle school to high school. Went into the service, got a 3DS, and then the next handheld that I bought after that was probably the Nintendo Switch in 2018, and then that's it. That's all I got now.
Yeah, I mean it's very reliable. I mean, looking back, I remember I felt like kind of awkward having the Game Boy Advance because like it wasn't cool. Like the Game Boy Color was the cool one to have, and then actually the SP was the even better one because and it was kind of great. The good thing about those Game Boy, they had good compatibility because I would play Pokemon Crystal on my Game Boy Advance. So because my brother had some old Game Boy Color games, and yeah, again, yeah, some of those games you could just play for hours. And at least with the Advance, you kind of had a backlight. You'd have to buy those lights or accessories, or you couldn't play in the car. I don't know. It was a very interesting time. And then nowadays, of course, you have I think mobile gaming and stuff has also kind of taken that gap of portability in gaming, but the quality can be mixed. Those games are designed very different than a game like Link's Awakening, for example. Probably is one of the more memorable ones for the Game Boy experience. The Nintendo DS was also a very nice addition to the Nintendo. Again, that game also had or the console also had some compatibility. You could play Game Boy Advance games. Like, one of the coolest things I liked about Pokemon especially, they always had some new innovative way to like transfer Pokemon. So like you could transfer from like, the cables, then you could do via Wi-Fi or local infrared. There's even some ways you could do it with a DS where connected to the Game Boy cartridge and then the SD cartridge. So it was just always a cool like experience. You're evolving and growing with these things. But after some time, I think I kind of like got gypped with the DS. So okay, so there's the DS, there's DSi, and then the 3DS. So I had gotten
The light.
yeah, and then there's the DS Lite. And then I got the fucking DSi with the new, it was like Pokemon Black, and then I was like, oh cool, it's like a custom DSi. And then I had a camera, and it was a little interesting for that. But then the 3DS came out, and it was just like piece of shit. Like I couldn't do like it was just like a slightly upgraded DS. So I was like, okay. After that, I felt like I kind of got burned with the Nintendo. But man, the Switch really changed things for a long time. They decided, okay, let's have a decent console and portable gaming system.
Well, I mean, they tried and failed with the Wii U. They learned from their mistakes, and then they took another gamble on it, and then they were wildly successful. That device has been around for damn near a decade, so they they did very well. I mean, so they did so well that other companies are like making the Steam Deck and clones of the Steam Deck. So that's where we're at now.
Yeah, I mean, like going to the Switch. I mean, it's always sold well. Then you have the Lite as well, and of course now we have the Switch 2 that's being teased. That's slightly bigger and gonna have a little bit more umph to it. But for a long time, it was just kind of the best way to play your games like on the go. But now looking at like the different handhelds, like I'm just gonna go through the list because there's a few things and we'll get into it. But the main thing with the Steam Deck, which makes it unique, that I think we'll get into a little bit more later, is the interface, the OS, like how easy it is to use. Just like the Switch. When they made this thing, I don't know, I don't think they were trying to compete with Nintendo per se, but they wanted people to be able to like use it for gaming, and that was the only thing it's used for, you know. Same thing with Nintendo. I used to read because I used to wonder why they never put like Netflix or streaming apps on it, and they decided like they only have YouTube. If you ever notice on the Switch, there's the only like real streaming app you can get is like YouTube. Um, and I don't know why, because I wouldn't mind like streaming on the Switch, but the Steam, you look at the Steam Deck and it's kind of like the same concept. It's only made for like gaming. You know, it's also, I think, just taking the world by storm. It's got its own OS, Steam OS. So sometimes I think the Unix based environment can throw people off, especially if you want to do extra stuff. But for the most part, if you just use it as is, it's very good.
Yeah, it looks really impressive. I'm very envious of Steam Deck owners because I got this huge backlog of games that I would love to play just like laying down because I'm usually at my computer and doing schoolwork or doing something else. Or even if it's not that, I'm just easily distracted and I'd like to have something that's just meant for only games and there's no other way for me to like access things like Netflix or YouTube or anything else like that.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
that
What made this thing great was whenever I used to go on trips, I'd bring my laptop, and now when I bring the Steam, and then I maybe bring my Switch too. But now I bring this thing, and it's just I have my full library of Steam. Most of them I can play on it. And when I play it, I usually pick up one of those games that I just don't usually play on my PC. Like I had bought like the Walking Dead Telltale series. I had played it before, but I wanted to revisit it, so I started playing it on here. Then I started getting into games like Near Automata, which also I was kind of interested in for a long time, but just didn't have time to get into. So I still haven't went back to it. Like I only like playing it on my Steam Deck. I tried to play it on my PC, and I was like, this kind of sucks. I was like, it's such a I tell you what, man. Like if I ever like decide to get the OLED one, I'll probably just give you my the one I have now, but because that's exactly what my
I
coworker.
love that.
That's what my coworker did. He got the OLED and he's like, "Hey, bro, you want a Steam Deck?" And I was like, "Yeah." He kept it in good condition, and then now, like this, since the Steam Deck's been so popular, you have other options, right? So,
Yeah.
there's a few different ones. So you have Lenovo, you have the MSI Claw, and Asus Rogue Ally, and the difference with those ones is they're actually Windows based. So, though some of them have, I'd say, better graphics cards and some better performance from what they've said, the interface, the Windows part can kind of get in the way. I don't know, like, I almost bought one of these things and I didn't have anything particular against Windows, but I just thought, man, this thing looks nice, but is it going to be a pain in the ass to deal with?
Yeah, I could see that being a huge concern. You just want to play.
Yeah, and then like, Steam, like they'll tell you, like the cool thing about Steam Deck, it'll tell you like, oh, this game will probably be good on Steam Deck, or it'll tell you, oh, this game, you may not have the best experience, but, or it's like, you might have to use the mouse trackpad. It's all very upfront with you. It'll always tell you if the game is fully compatible or you might have like a hard time, especially games that are not so controller friendly. But yeah, I think it's like I don't even want to go back to the Switch anymore. Though that's the only bad thing is when I look at the Switch and there's nothing against it. And maybe with the Switch 2, I'll consider like I like this video because it's very simple. Their little advertisement. They show the Switch and they're like, all right, here's your Switch. And oh, we're gonna make the screen bigger and we're going to improve the Joy Cons. It's like I really hope this isn't like a Switch 1.5. Like could we have gotten this like 2 years ago? Maybe,
I
probably.
mean, I don't know because like I was like I gleaned over some of the specs, and apparently it's pretty good. So
Well, like it has to at this point. I mean, there's just so much competition now.
yeah,
Look, you can make Breath of the Wild 3 and Mario Party 10 and Mario Kart Deluxe 9, but at the end of the day, man, like those games are kind of one of the biggest things that keep this like Nintendo alive, or at least. But they're super kid friendly too. I mean, I see, we're living in Japan. You see kids and adults with this Switches all the time. They're super popular. I don't see many guys with Steam Decks walking around in Japan so much, but every now and then. But the other thing is, the kind of genius thing about what people don't realize about, and maybe Nintendo figured it out before, but I think they wanted to make a console that lasted longer versus that performance, because the Switch actually lasts a long time on battery. Like you can play it for a very long time. Whereas the Steam Deck, depending what game you're playing and your settings, you're lucky to get a few hours out of it. Like Steam, for the Switch, I feel like you can play it almost all day on and off. But then again, like we're kind of spoiled, huh? Like
yeah. I mean,
fucking Game Boy. You remember like having to change batteries all the time, and like you'd have to
that was
beg.
expensive.
Yeah, you'd have to beg your parents, like, "Mom, Dad, can we please get some more batteries?" And you try to like save money by getting rechargeable batteries sometimes, and those ended up being shittier. It's like,
I would just steal. I would just steal the remote
yeah,
batteries.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then because the remote, the remote actually never required that much battery. Like you can give it some dead batteries and it'll still work. But then like your dad or your mom would come and say, "Oh, what the fuck? Why is the remote not working?" Or you just straight up just take the batteries. You don't even replace them.
Yeah.
And I think some parents would get smart because they tape it. But like they make it really hard to like take it sometimes. You kind of have to. But yeah, exactly. You don't have to buy batteries anymore for this shit. It's
Really don't.
we're kind of spoiled. You can charge it, and even if you're on the go, you can always get like a mobile battery or something.
I don't know, man. I'm of the belief that there's always a give and take. So, like, I'd say the take or the thing that you're not going to be getting these days with handhelds is definitely like the jump in, I guess, like innovative or things that just like, just like straight up just wow you. Like going from Pokemon Red to what is it, Emerald, for example. Like basically, whenever they went to from pixels to 3D, is like a huge jump. I don't see us going anywhere with that, like per se. I'd say the closest thing that we're going to be getting is maybe jumping from you know 3D to VR and AR, which we're going to get into later. But I don't know. Is that in the future for Switch? Maybe. I mean, they're already naming it Switch 2. Is it fair to believe that they're going to make a Switch 3 with some like make another Switch and name it Switch 3? So where it's like PC replacement.
Could say Nintendo's a little bit more ambitious with their add-ons, or sometimes
They're
like
the crazy toy makers.
they made that crazy. Like some games have like you can put the Joy Cons in these cardboard, like you can make it a fishing rod.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I I don't know if that was like their attempt to compete with like to like go back to like Wii kind of stuff. They seem to be very interested in the whole motion control thing. So, if they did get into VR, then dude, imagine Legend of Zelda VR. I mean, that shit would be sold out in minutes. People would be all over that thing.
dude, could you imagine them just making a Virtual Boy too? That'd be kind
Oh
of
my
cool.
god. It's interesting if you think about it. The Virtual Boy was actually play that thing on the go. It did have a portable option, but like how you would do it. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, like you could do that. They had the light gun. They had the power glove. Like we're getting very close to very possible that they are revisiting those things behind the scenes because of like the given technologies that we already have.
yeah, I mean, going back to what you said, like you said, going from Pokemon Red to Emerald, we were in that generation where like I played Crystal and then I jumped straight to Pokemon Sapphire, and it was just like amazing seeing the animations, seeing the pixels, the art. Like I was so excited to see my Pokemon actually move or do an attack or something. Like it was so cool. I was like, oh, he's actually gonna do like a punch. Like I played even on the Wii, it was like Pokemon Revolution, and that was like one of the like kind of like the follow up to Pokemon Coliseum and the GameCube games and the 64 games. But you'd actually see your Pokemon do animations and like go along with their attacks. It's so cool. I saw a meme the other day where it's like kids back then, it's like going from like you mentioned Pokemon Red to like, Cyberpunk, and then kids now it's like Fortnite, and then 10 years later it's still Fortnite.
Yeah,
Dude, Siege is actually going to be like 10 years old soon.
Rainbow Six.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, dude. I mean, the Nintendo Switch is already almost 10 years old. It was released in 2017. We're only 2 years away from that.
Bro,
Time flies, dude.
I don't know what happened. Yeah, you're right. The Switch was 2017, Rainbow Six 2015. I mean, it's kind of cool. I mean, you could argue like games like Counter Strike or whatever are also timeless. But fuck, man. I mean, yeah, some people just only grow up on certain games or even League of Legends, I guess too. But
Yeah,
um, it's a different time. And with the handhelds though, there was always like a different expectation though, because you knew if you're playing on the go, you'd sacrifice, graphics for convenience. But now with this with the Steam Deck and all these other competitors, it's like you're damn near playing console level quality. Looking at PlayStation's wave, like I was a little disappointed with the whole PlayStation Portal, because this one it's just like, oh, if someone's using the TV, you can basically use remote play. You have a dedicated remote play device to play games on, which is kind of cool, but you could already kind of do that with, if you had a phone or a different PC or something, you could just use remote play and connect your controller. So I think PlayStation has definitely gone back. I mean, for a while, I think the PSP was also like the shit, right? Like that was the cool thing to have.
bro. I was super jealous. I was super jealous of everybody that had one. My cousin had one. People at school had them. I saw them like using ad hoc to play like some Naruto game, and they were just like
Yeah.
playing wirelessly. Like that shit was so fucking cool to me.
And then like they would watch
Yeah.
movies, they would watch,
Uh-huh.
and you could like it was so cool.
It
Like
has an MP3 player. You can browse the
yeah,
web.
it was like kind of used for everything, and it was like the coolest thing to have. And I just felt like a fucking nerd with my like Nintendo DS. Like,
Right?
full loser. Nah, I'm just kidding. But for real though, like I don't know why Sony gave up, because
It was just too good.
but then they go to the like this PlayStation, like what can you really like if you were able to use this thing more on the go and not use it just at home, then I would feel more into like if you could use this thing like yeah, exactly. If you could use it on the go, then maybe it would be cooler. But being limited to your home, like you said before, maybe there's those times where I want to lay down and play a game, and this is where it would come in handy.
Bro, I think it's something much bigger than just that. I think it's Sony being a little self-aware about their console, and also looking at like the production costs and just basically the overhead, right?
Yeah,
And they're like, this is them kind of dipping their toes into it, because like they're not new to this. Like they've done this
yeah.
successfully. So they're just like, all right, if we're not going to be selling X amount of, PS5s or PS6s, should we just throw in the towel and just completely just move everything to handheld, because that's where the market's going? And I could see that. I could really honestly see that, because they're already just like, all right, we already have really good controllers. Just smack a screen into it, and then there you go. Because I would love that. I
It
would
is.
love a competitor to the Steam Deck.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it is kind of a cool design, but at the same time, I think it would kind of suck to. I don't know. Like, it's cool to have it laying around the house, but taking this somewhere would be a nightmare. I don't know, unless you
You
had
could
a
probably
case.
make it smaller.
Like what it says is an 8-inch screen, LCD screen. I mean, the screen looks nice, and the controller too. Like I love the PS5 controller. So I don't know. Maybe if I had, I
Too
don't know.
damn much
Yeah,
for what you're getting. Nah, I need to be able to have my games on the thing, not connect to my account via Wi-Fi. That's it. Nah, that's not gonna happen. I am not sold on that.
yeah. It's just like not worth it.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is them kind of dipping their toes into it, because they haven't messed around with handheld since, before PS3, or since, yeah, since PS3.
So like for $200, which is not terrible, but not great. Like if this thing
Mm.
is, tell you what, if it was half the price, like maybe like how much is a controller? Like $60. If it was $150, I would buy it. Maybe.
I would buy it right now if I knew that you could hack it somehow, because like that's why, because like if you look at the PS Vita TV, that is basically just a little black block, and that is you're able to you're able to jailbreak that and put all your PS Vita games on there. You can throw RetroArch on there. You can play GBA games. All you have to do is just hook it up to your TV, and you have everything.
Well, that's also the I guess the appeal to the Steam Deck because there's a lot of those emulation support there as well. I mean, as much as they try to attack and take those down, there is those options out there. And then I started to look into it. I'm like, what is Xbox doing? So I guess their approach is slightly different. We have some funny clips to talk about it later, but I guess Logitech they partnered with Logitech to do this cloud gaming handheld. So this one's a little bit better than I think that PlayStation one because like okay, you can do cloud gaming with it and it has a slightly longer battery life. And I think you can download games on there too. So and the controller it looks small enough that's like kind of handy and it's not too big. I don't know. It looks kind of nice. Plus, if it's connected with Game Pass, you can do that. So they're also trying to take the approach of making it integrated with Xbox stuff. Logitech's a pretty good maker, so they don't usually make crappy stuff. And maybe the cloud gaming thing, I guess it's still in beta. So I think it's a step up from PlayStation a little bit to stream games like directly from the cloud to the PC instead of relying on your PlayStation. How good that is, I don't know. I mean, we talked about the Stadia. We saw how that did. The Stadia actually also had similar remote features as well. But again, you're like streaming. You're also streaming cloud, and I don't know. PlayStation does it. I think now the cloud gaming scene is a little bit better, but I guess it depends what you're playing.
Yeah, I mean, my experience with it, what, like something like 2 years ago, maybe three. I played it, and I used PlayStation's cloud service for some game that I just didn't have, and it wasn't bad. I didn't have any issues with it.
The other interesting thing about this Logitech one is it's actually using Android as its OS. So
Hmm.
I thought that was kind of unique, and we kind of talked about this offline, but we were talking about how how close is our phones getting to be able to also compete with these Steam Decks and Rogue Ally switches. You have Switch actually running mobile games. In some cases, you could play mobile games on Switch. When they started re-releasing those Final Fantasy games on iOS and Android, that you can get Chrono Trigger. I feel like some of those were also just like repurposed for like Switch too. Like maybe I don't know. I don't know the full background, but it's like some of these older Xbox, PS2 era games are starting to be playable on your phone.
Yeah, Final Fantasy War of the Lions, which is just a a slight remaster slash remake, Final Fantasy Tactics. That's on. You're able to play that on your iPad, your iPhone, and your Android phone. I mean, I bought it. So what was it, like a $30 game? Bought it. There's like some hiccups, and it would clearly benefit from like an actual controller rather than a touch screen. But if you were able to get yourself a Bluetooth controller, then it's kind of like the same experience. You're never gonna get it right because porting shit is just it's hard for for like the back end developers to go and accommodate people like based on like whatever device that they actually have. So, I mean, there's a lot of factors and variables to take in consideration.
Yeah, I mean, smartphones are gonna keep getting better, but to be honest, I don't know. I don't care what kind of accessories you slap on that thing. It'll never be a gaming console to me. I mean, fuck, man. Jesus Christ. So Sony Vita, 5 million sold. I think was
That's about as many as I think the PS5 has sold right now,
well
if I'm not
3DS,
mistaken.
3DS 31 million.
I can see there being an issue though, going back to the Switch, because I remember watching some YouTube video from Bellular News, and they were talking about like how people that had the Nintendo Wii, they didn't really see a reason to upgrade to the Wii U because they already had one. They were using it as like a as a family console that could play Netflix and YouTube and all this other stuff. So they were just like, what's the purpose of upgrading to the next system when it doesn't have any games?
Fair enough.
I
Damn. All
remember.
right.
Yeah,
So check this out. All right. So the PSP sold 76 million, the original 76 million. So I guess what happened, this is a great article and I'll include it in our notes. A guy on Reddit, uh, posted on I'm he did a very thorough kind of history of the handheld gaming. And, I guess to summarize some of the stuff where we were talking about with PSP is I think they're going, they're kind of repeating the same mistakes because like the PSP was kind of perfect the way it was. And I think the more like with the PSP Go and the Vita,
there was that foam, that weird foam.
yeah, like
Tony Erickson.
I think the problem was they kept doing things but not improving upon it. Like they had such
They're
a
just throwing a D-pad on it and saying,
yeah,
Buy it with a with an up mark."
at least with the 3D, like because you look at the DS, the original DS was 93 million sold. The DSi was slightly lower again because it's not adding much. I mean, what the fuck did they do? It's like you said, like why should I upgrade? It's plays the same games. There's nothing to it. And then you see 3DS kind of goes back up 31, but that's also not that good. So maybe just like for a while the reason was because there just wasn't enough buying because I knew I wasn't interested. The only reason why I was kind of wanted to get a 3DS was to play the new Fire Emblem, but that's it. So I guess now it's like we're going through the same conversation. What did we just say? PlayStation Portable. It's just like, well, it just doesn't offer as much as like. Why should I get it? I have a PlayStation and I can use remote play.
I mean, but isn't that kind of like the thing that is kind of like popular to do in companies like this? They make one good product followed by like six generations of bad products.
There was that good video you showed me earlier. They were looking at Microsoft and it kind of went into this whole gaming thing, and we'll reference it in the description. But what they were kind of getting into was so this whole Lenovo. We'll go back to this Lenovo Go S because this thing is interesting because they're going to actually start. Well, Steam is letting other consoles or other manufacturers use the Steam OS as kind of like an open source. So you can preload Steam OS on any piece of hardware and certify it. So when you buy one of these things, it'll pretty much be a Steam Deck, but different hardware, which is kind of
What do
amazing.
you think that is?
Well, I get like I think that video touched on a lot of good topics, but I guess you could see a lot of advantages. One being people are going to buy more games on Steam that way. So by providing a platform, they're going to buy more games on Steam and not other sources,
Mm.
which is one thing. So that is one major advantage. The second thing is, it's providing a good experience. So the whole point of using it is for gaming and gaming alone. Whereas when you load Windows, good luck if you can get it to run. Sure, maybe it could run, but at least with the Steam OS, you have a more concise experience.
It's reliable, yeah. It just works, as they say.
It just works. I mean, that was my whole point. Is just like going back to what I was saying about Microsoft is they're a big company. Okay, Microsoft is not a gaming company. It is a software company. They make most of their money doing cloud computing, Office 365. So when it comes to gaming, it's profitable, but it's not like their focus. Where for Steam, it is. And that video kind of really highlights it a lot when we watch together. And it made me think about it is even with Sony. Sony does movies, they do TVs, they do electronics, phones, they do all kinds of shit. And then they have the PlayStation, and it's like, and then you have Nintendo. So maybe that's why Steam and Nintendo are just so outshining everyone, just because that's their focus. Like that's all they do. It's just gaming. It's like Nintendo doesn't fuck around with like movie. I mean, sure they have like movies and stuff, but they know what the people want. For example, re-releasing favorites, Super Mario RPG, Paper Mario. They re-release like the Legend of Zelda games, Donkey Kong. Like they know what the people want. Like, okay, we're gonna do a new Hello Kitty. I mean, who doesn't want to play that?
Yeah. Dude, I bet it's actually fun too, because I'm not gonna knock it either, dude. I bet it is actually like I'm not even kidding. I bet it is actually fun because Nintendo they like to have fun games, and if they're putting that like in front of your face, it's probably fun.
I mean, we talked about Link's Awakening earlier too, and they're basically making a reboot of that as well, which is again, they know what people want. Same thing with Steam. So I think it's a smart move making it open source, so that way. At the same time, it kind of sucked. I mean, it'll at least make other like hopefully it'll make Microsoft and Sony do more. I mean, competition always makes things better. So hopefully through this we'll see some more innovation. Who knows? Maybe Nintendo's got a few cards up their sleeve. I mean, who knows? Only time will tell. All I can say is I really enjoy my Steam Deck and my I haven't touched my Switch in a while, but where can it go next?
It's gonna go VR. It's all gonna go VR. It's all gonna go AR. It's all gonna go into your phone. Like I'm a huge collector of retro consoles and handhelds. Like I got PS Vitas and PSPs. I got PS Vita 1000s in my closet that I can just modify. I got a Wii U still in the box right here, and I got my Switch. I got my DS. Like there's still value in them, at least to me, because like you said with the PSP, you they had UMD cartridges with 3DS. You have those cartridge anything that has a cartridge or a disc and it doesn't need internet, I'm all about it. And those things do actually they retain and they grow in their value over time for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, physical media is always going to be valuable. I mean, We looked over it, and so that's the thing. Nintendo, as much as they do some things, they have like on Switch, they can do the cloud retro gaming, but I don't think they can remaster or preserve all their games. Like it's just impossible, especially third party developers.
Yeah, dude. Because the thing is, I was listening to this podcast from Insert Credit podcast, and they were talking about specifically this was that back then in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, like memory storage was expensive. They didn't have all their source code, so that stuff is just kind of like kicking around in some boxes, never to see the light of day again. But nowadays people are able to do regular backups and save their shit, and that's it.
I mean, I'm sure if you had like a cartridge or something, you could probably extract it that way too. I think that's how a lot of
Hmm.
ROMs are made. But if you don't have it, then good luck.
Yeah.
And as much as they want to take down emulation, I mean, we talked about this last year when we talked about how hard it is to own a game. At some point, if you can't fucking buy it, or the game is twice as much as what you paid back in 2005, then I'm gonna fucking rip it. I'm gonna get a
Yeah.
ROM.
I'm not going to spend $500 for Earthbound. Like, no way.
Bro. Like exactly. It's, oh man, this game is so cool and rare and awesome. Oh well, you know what? Little rant session, but one thing that pisses me off about the Switch, you can change your region sometime. When I play those cloud games, they're all in Japanese, which sometimes I can do, but when I'm playing a game like Earthbound that has like tons of dialogue, like just impossible to play for me. And I'd love to just play it, by itself, but I'm sure there's a way around it. But at some point, probably just gonna say fuck it and get an emulator. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, that's where we're at now. And like the other really cool thing about emulating is like there's a lot. And I'd say that this is kind of general knowledge, but there are just Japanese only releases, and the people that actually do know about those Japanese only games, they go through and they get it translated. They commission people to translate it. They do all the coding by themselves, and then they put it up on the internet for people to go and enjoy. Because like that's it's significant. It's culturally significant, you know,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
it's a huge part. It's a huge part that they wanted because people really put in the time. They spent a lot of money to make this game just for it to not be shown, or just for it to kind of like just sit and collect dust. People see that happening, and they put it out there for everyone to enjoy, which I think is
I get it. Localizing games can be expensive, but at some point, you're gonna have some fan base, or who knows, like the game might pick up in other areas of the world or whatever. You might, you're gonna have a little cult following. At least everyone wants to make the next live service game, and that also kind of makes it harder. Some of the questions we wrote down was like, how could handheld gaming survive in a smartphone dominated world? Because live service mobile games, you have, like Candy, you're out of energy, so spend $5 to get more energy. You want to buy a new unit? Well, you can get the free unit, or you can pay $10 to get the one that it's just like
Mom,
never.
I want my V-Bucks. Mom, give me V-Bucks. Dad,
Yeah, it's just like the monetization has just
it's
they've gotten
gross.
they've gotten so greedy over it. Like, could
But
Nintendo have
Paul,
sold something where it's like,
but Paul, the number must go up.
bro, imagine if you're playing like Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and every time you use a flute, it's like, oh, you have to wait 3 hours to like use it, or you can spend $2 to give Link a little boost, like to play the fucking Ocarina.
Back in my day.
I'll say Nintendo's not greedy, but at the same time, I wish they would have some fucking sales on their store for once.
Yeah, it's fucking stupid. Oh my god, Breath of the Wild has never been underneath $40. Never.
Like, bro, and that's another thing. I mean, Steam, you can say they're greedy too by taking their 30%. I don't know, they discount games. Maybe it sells games. Look at that game. We talked about Kingdom Come. Me and my friend Jose played it. For Steam, it would go on sale for like $5 sometimes, and a lot of people got into it. Now they're doing the new one. Like there's so many games like that that like you would never play like full price. It's like I don't want to play full price for this, but then it goes on sale and you buy it, and then you're like, oh, I really like this, so now I'm going to spend full price for the next game, or oh, maybe I'll buy that DLC because like it's a little investment. A lot of these companies they lose money on the hardware and they make money on software, but can you just discount it sometimes,
You know what I
please?
have been seeing? Going a little off track, but I think it's a really good thing though. Is I've been noticing that a lot more games on Steam they have demos. Like it's becoming more popular. I feel like because like I'll hear about a new game that's coming out that I see on Twitter or on through Twitch or on some Facebook post or anywhere else. And then I look it up and I find it, and sure enough, there's a demo. And I'm glad to see that that's
That's
coming
good.
back.
That's good. Yeah, I think it is because like I think even Xbox Live had that feature for a lot of games, and of course you can get them on discs too. Like if you had like subscription magazines, sometimes it come with demos too. So it was
Yeah,
really
the jam
cool.
pack.
So like when we look at like cloud gaming, they're not going to be able to have all those games on one catalog. There's going to be games that have take. It's just like Netflix and streaming services. TV shows disappear all the time. Same thing can happen to these games. I mean, they're not as large probably in file size, but it's just impossible unless you put that investment for the future of like major tech companies. When we talk about AR and VR, I guess let's switch into that. Apple and Facebook, Meta, they have their VR set up, and
And
oh
recently, Samsung.
oh Samsung.
Yeah, they got their thing too. I think it's like Samsung Beyond or something.
Ah, yes.
They have
Yeah.
it in yeah, the Samsung's VR unveiled this year. Sadly, it's Bradley. Yeah, Galaxy Beyond, Samsung Beyond or Galaxy Beyond. They just put a trademark filed in the UK and New Zealand last month as of January 31st. So late last year.
So just a little context. We kind of like did some deep dive when we started looking, because Josh did ask a very interesting question, like, what is the future? And when we kept looking into it, you look at the Apple Vision Pro and what they're doing with gaming, like, oh, like look at this. This is fucking awesome. Like a little NBA court. Like the console VR is, I wouldn't say it's a step behind, but it's not something I'd ever want to get into. But
It's not their main focus.
it's just like an extra thing. Whereas Apple Vision Pro, Meta, again, they have other stuff, but I think at some point, like they're trying to make this their next platform. They're not trying to make a new console. This is their platform for gaming, I guess, besides the mobile. Do you think that this could really compete with the Steam Deck or like Switch? Because like I just think that
I think I think it really will.
my biggest thing is like the catalog for VR has always been lackluster, and also you can't play it for too long. But then again, you look at this AR shit, and it's actually kind of cool. Like you can see stuff with your environment.
Yeah.
I think like you did some. Well, why don't you talk about the deep dive you went into with Steam's angle on this whole thing? Let's go to the start where we talk about the Valve Deckard, this whole like leak
The
that's
Roy
been,
Deckard.
yeah, the Roy
Yeah.
Deckard. I'm gonna put a few
Yeah.
images on the screen of some concepts that people have rendered based on some SteamDB digging they've done
Yeah,
in.
all the data mining that they've done. They so my understanding of it is that that Steam Valve had uploaded some stuff to some repositories um publicly that ended up getting caught by SteamDB, which is a database or a place that um it's just a database for video games that are released on Steam, but you can also see important information like commits that are being put to software for updates and other valuable information. So what they found, or what somebody had found, was that there is something called the the Steam Roy Deckard and the other Steam controller. I forgot what that one's code named. And then there's another thing that I forgot to put into this, but it's another console. It's another Steam console that Jeff Keighley actually had access to use for playing Half-Life Alyx. And they have photos of it too, and I really wish I had that. So maybe I can get it and send it to you in post, but whatever. Anyway, so what what is the Steam Roy Deckard? It's basically a Steam Deck for your face. This is their answer to VR AR headsets. The Apple Vision Pro, because the Apple Vision Pro, it is completely capable of doing anything that a computer can do and more, because it has very strong I think it's an M1 or an M2 processing chip that they have, and that's stronger than my 2019 MacBook Pro. So like you can anything that you would do on a laptop, you can do on a Vision Pro. Is so what that also means too, and this is also, I guess, like softly confirmed. The Roy Deckard is going to have like, yeah, so it's going to have an ARM CPU hardware, which means that it's going to have like longer battery life, and it's going to use less power. And the Apple M series chips that are also are ARM based as well. So that's what that means. There's a lot of compelling evidence that we're being shown right now. So like that's going to be the future, is all this hardware. And like it's really crazy like what you can do with it too, because like they're saying that you're going to be able to make non 3D games 3D by using this open source software called Reshade, which has been around since 2015 and went open source in 2016, and that's what Valve has been using to on the Roy Deckard. But I was looking into it a little bit more, and people were saying that you can actually use this technology, or this feature right now already with, say, like, I don't know, a Steam Index or whatever, or a Valve Index, or any other VR headset. And there's videos that show it, and I have it in the links. But yeah, man, like it's crazy, and we're going to be getting more of this in the future for sure, because you have iPhones that are able to shoot like VR videos and stuff. So all that stuff is going to be used, or like if you have the technology to watch all this stuff, then yeah, you're going to use it.
I mean, that's kind of crazy. So, like, I think the best video, like, take example this NBA like court thing. Instead of like playing this, imagine you're watching. I don't know, you're playing fucking Chrono Trigger or something. Like that'd be fucking awesome. And
Oh
then
yeah, I would love that.
I could
I didn't even
see
think about that.
like that was like my whole vision when you mentioned this whole AR thing. Like playing like maybe you don't get all these motion controls, but let's say you're holding a controller, and or you're on the train, and I don't know, like you could be anywhere, having you have the headset on, you kind of can see your surroundings with peripheral vision. And I mean, I think it looks a little dorky, to be honest, like walking around with that shit. But who knows? Like we got this guy
Most people
walking.
are brave.
You know what? Maybe that will be the norm. Who
God, I hope
knows?
not. If they were like, if they were like inconspicuous as like just normal ass glasses, then maybe.
You could walk your drone and be playing Mario.
While watching the Bulls get blown out by the Sacramento Kings or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, fuck. Oh my god. Imagine. I mean, oh god, and the ads, like, and then instead of having the ads show up on the in front of you, like they're on the side, like on a website. So like when you're playing a game, it's like they have the ads pop up on the sides, and you have to like move your hand to like brush them away. It's like
Oh my god.
like this could be a fucking nightmare if you think about it. But
Dude, it's gonna be nightmarish to like anybody that has like kids growing up. You're like, Dad, can you take that weird thing off your face, please? What are you hitting? You're
or
scaring.
it could be the opposite, where the kids are wearing it and you're trying to talk to them and they're just totally disconnected. I mean, I see it in my daughter sometimes, where like she just gets so invested. I haven't got her until she's only 4, but um, she likes watching shows sometimes, and she gets really focused. And I mean, it's a blessing sometimes to have it, time to myself, and she can focus on that. But there are other times where it's like, oh well, maybe they're too focused. I mean, what are some other pop like? So I like this other Twitter post where you had this guy. He was like, "Say, I'm using the iPhone to shoot VR videos and watching them." So and what is he trying to do? He's trying to kind of like make his own VR. Well, it sounded like he's trying to make his own VR video and kind of make it into a game. So it would be kind of cool to like. Did you ever remember the Black Mirror Bandersnatch? Where it's like a
Yeah,
two like what if there was like a VR version of that where it's like you could choose your own movie or adventure, but it was all VR based. So, you could be watching a video or you can kind of control it. I don't know. Like there's a lot of possibilities you can go through, um I
I mean, I
like
think it's completely possible. Like, if all you're asking is just how to add like interactive elements into say something like that, I don't think it's that hard because like over here in Japan, like I don't I had gone to I went to a hotel with my wife a couple of years ago and we had like this really weird remote and it was just for like watching like normal Japanese cable television. And then I was like, what are these buttons for? And like on the screen for live television, they'll like ask audiences that are watching to like press a button
oh
to
yeah.
poll. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. Never knew that. I
Yeah,
could
yeah.
totally see something like that being interacted with AR VR.
It probably just controls like their butt plug,
Yeah.
like on the other, for the host, like, oh yeah, press the red one. But
I
like,
don't know. It's gonna add a whole nother level or a whole different layer of I guess like interacting with audiences.
dude, like, we've seen this in Cyberpunk, but I the whole brain dance thing where you download something that happens. So imagine you can film in 3D, or so if someone filmed in 3D and then you made an experience kind of like in Cyberpunk where you could analyze the surroundings and like imagine any historical thing that happens, like someone's at war, someone's I don't know, like you go to the presidential inauguration or you go to some concert and you do a 3D video, you put on your AR and then you're able to like experience the whole thing almost as if you were there. Like
Oh
that,
my god.
like Cyberpunk had like kind of the best way of showing it. Like when you do the brain dance, like you mentioned. I think the other one was like right Become Human. If you ever play that game, um, there's a part where you play as a uh cyborg detective, and he kind of also uses like AR, where he can sense the surroundings of stuff that happened. So, I mean, the possibilities are could be there. And for the as far as this being the next step for gaming, I mean, that could be the next leap that people want to do to like get that next experience.
It's all about how can we make it fun and then sell it to people is the question that some of these companies are asking themselves right now. So
I mean, why go
I don't
anywhere
know.
if you could just live it in your home? I mean,
Or
what,
how can they make it marketable or how can we get people to sell us this information that they have?
well,
Or
that's
are
the
they gonna do it by force?
well, that's the thing. Um, and I like so in some of your notes you have data that the games can access. So we all know about Pokemon Go, and that the developer for that ended up making some crazy GPS program that, like, out of all the data they collected from Pokemon Go, they created some things like they collected so much data that they could use. They probably had the best like geo geo data more than Google, probably, from that stupid app.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Up to an accuracy down to the centimeter, if I remember that article snippet correctly. It's crazy, man.
And with VR AR, think of it like this. Okay, maybe they sell, like, if they made a feature, like, here's how you do it. I think right now, VR and AR are just too expensive to get into for a normal person. It's just not accessible. So once the price goes down, but then they make a caveat like, oh, instead of 3 grand, it'll be like maybe 15 or one grand. Or even if they could get it to like the price, like the Meta is pretty cheap actually. The Meta ones.
Yeah.
I don't know how much that Samsung one is, but the Sony, like the console ones are kind of expensive too. But if you were to get something to a reasonable price, and we talked about this before too, when we mentioned VR, AR, when you get it to a normal price and people start getting into it, that's when it'll start making more money. That's like this AR stuff, like, but then, like, here's the catch. It's like, oh, we're going to release a bunch of free games and apps, but we're going to use the data and sell it. So imagine you have that thing turned on, and in the background, it's collecting metadata of your house and your surroundings. Oh, uh, look at his surroundings. Oh, he's got Pringle, he's got beer, Asahi. Okay, well, now let's send him some ads for that shit. Oh, you got some Haagen Dazs. Like, this is just on my desk. By the way, I guess I'm a fat ass, but
Got a lot of phallic objects in your room
huh.
and some baby oil.
Yeah, like, oh,
Wow.
it could just get so much. Like, I have coworkers. I work with a lot of technology people, and I think AI
You can
is
say fucking nerds, Paul. It's all right.
nerds, whatever. Look, they're all good people, but um, I think a lot of people have mixed feelings about AI because AI doesn't have much to do with this, but at the end of the day, when you're using these services, if you're not paying for it, you're selling your data. And when you sell your data, to me, I feel like it's too far gone to, like, you either have to be completely not using services, or I don't know. It's just impossible to not have your data be compromised. You're using services like Google, you know, Google alone, right? Everyone wants to complain about China and but Google, Facebook, whatever, your data is going to be sold somewhere, and where they decide to sell it or who they give it to, it's just like back in the day. I think the worst that could happen is, your phone number gets compromised and people call, you get telemarketers that call your phone. Now you live in a day and age where anything you say or do is sold.
Dude, so I just had a thought. Do you think that some of these companies that deal or work with the Amish, do you think that they've kind of bugged some of their devices with some stuff? I just random thought. Do you think it is possible? I think it's possible.
The Amish?
Yeah, man.
What do you mean?
'Cause, bro, I seriously think that like in the future when everything is like just littered with AI and microphones and cameras and shit, the Amish they're gonna have no choice but to pick up this device, and then they're gonna be sucked into this world too, or we're gonna have have more information on these Amish and see what they're hiding.
Like, their tractor needs to be connected to Wi-Fi in order to, like,
Yeah,
work.
dude. Yeah, or like the Starlink systems are actually like picking up on them somehow. Like it's that capable.
Well, I mean, Starlink's actually really nice.
Yeah, my friend told me he used it and he says it's very good. But
We
anyway,
we
yeah,
took it
dude.
we took it out camping around like the Fuji Lakes, and it actually worked. And we used that as our Wi-Fi. It was awesome. Um but yeah, going back, okay, we don't maybe we'll save that for another day. But you're right. I mean, at some point, I don't know.
They're next. Dude, the Amish dude, they're after you, man.
Who knows what the fuck they're doing? They need to be stopped. Nah, nothing against the Amish people. They're all. But let's conclude this. So overall, and I think I didn't get into this last part because it's not that significant. But handhelds can be. There's mainstream handhelds. There's a lot of off brands that sell emulators on the go. And you know what? For certain people, that's okay. If you just want to buy a prepackaged emulator console that has, I don't know, X amount of games, that is okay. If you want to get a Steam Deck and just play Steam games, that's okay. Or maybe you want to get a Steam Deck and fully customize it. Great. Or maybe you can be like Josh and have like a collection of legacy equipment that can be customized with other open source software. There's just so many possibilities with handheld. But to wrap it up, it's just, I think, the point we wanted to make is handheld has a long future and it could transcend into something completely different.
It has already changed, man. It's no longer Pikachu. Now it's like Pikachu with CIA gathering your data.
Yeah.
Once they're done with collecting our data, they're after the Amish's data. They want that geolocation. Tell me your secrets.
We could just go there. I mean, I'm sure there's been someone that's like infiltrated it.
An undercover Amish person.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's like,
I don't know. Undercover Jedediah.
well, you can always ask. I mean, there's always, I think at some point, if I think they give people a choice if they want to live in the society or shun them if they decide to leave. Dude, all I know is that whatever we're going to, um, I can at least trust Steam for like gaming sense. I don't think I'd ever like,
Gabe. Yeah, I worry about that too. I worry about like what happens when Gabe leaves or whenever he passes.
I don't know, man. I think as long as they uphold like the standard and don't turn into another Microsoft, Meta, all these fake companies that just generally do not give a shit about you. Like Japan, like look, Nintendo's been around a long time. They've kept the same standards for years.
Yeah, they just care about money. That's all they really care
I mean,
about.
yeah,
They're
like
not above telling you the same shit.
yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, they're not perfect, but the vision stays the same for the most part. I'm sure Steam will as well. So if they do produce a VR AR platform, I'm sure it'll be a lot better experience than the competition, which is good because honestly, I don't think the VR AR has been very competitive. I mean, it is and it isn't. Okay, you have like there's a lot of options, but it's just like there's nothing to really it like unless you're into it, like it's kind of like going through the same motions as the handhelds did. Like, oh, we're gonna release a PSP, then we're gonna release a PSP Vita, and then we're gonna release we're gonna release Game Boy Color, Game Boy SP, Nintendo. It's like it's still building. It's not quite there yet. You know what? Maybe VR and AR is in the you say it's in maybe it's in the probably link stage.
I don't know, dude. The
maybe
minute
maybe
that everybody,
maybe it's
the
like
minute it's in everyone's hands,
I
ugh.
don't know. Like there's
I think we're
there
very close to it being a Game Boy Color phase right now.
I think you're right cuz honestly, the Game Boy was like that was the handheld that made you that was outlasted everything.
Funky piece of shit that had the first cartridges that were able to be played on the Game Boy Color and then onto the Game Boy Advance.
Exactly. And then, when that happens, then maybe we'll hit another slope
And it's gonna be implanted into your fucking brain. That's what we're going after that. That's what's after AR VR.
hell yeah.
Cybernetic implants. That's where we're headed.
That could very well be. And then you can you get some Chrome or you can be pure, whatever. Go into the whole Deus Ex timeline. Cyberpunk, who knows?
Or Case of Cud. You can be a Truekin.
Fuck.
Everyone else is just a mutant.
I really appreciate talking to you again about this, Josh. It was fun. For our listeners out there, stay tuned. We might switch up some topics here and there. Maybe we'll do something a little more, I don't know, off topic from gaming, tech. Maybe something a little fun.
A little bit less dystopian.
Yeah. That's just the times we live in, But anyway, thanks for listening, guys, and
Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.